area. Here we go. All right, we are now ready to go. We're going to be looking at everything you've ever wanted to know about the Denon MC7000. That means MJ has taken it apart, has desoldered every connection, looked at it, measured it, tweaked it, and put it all back together, and he's going to tell us all about it tonight, right?
I've done that in paper form only, but yes, I have.
I suppose when you're trying to do all the MIDI mapping and such to customize it, it almost feels like you're doing that.
Well, tonight, we're not even going to look at the MIDI mapping. That's going to be a future show. If you guys want to see that, let John know in the chat. I can't see the chat. And then next week, we can actually do one where I show what MIDI mapping I did, why I did it, and to what level maybe you would be interested in, whether it be another controller that you have or maybe getting one in the future, how the MIDI mapping can actually benefit you. But tonight we're looking at the stone stock settings that come from the factory. I do have virtual running, but the stock settings for the buttons that we're going to be talking about are the exact same on Serato or virtual. So it's just basic button stuff that we're doing tonight, showing all that it has, and then we're going to take some questions about it. But we're not going into anything kind of like special MIDI mapping. I would love to do that because, trust me, I spend a lot of time doing a lot of MIDI mapping on this, and I really like the fact that it's given me some stuff to work with. So, cool. So let's start with the fact that, again, it does work with every software. It as your computer reads it as what's called a generic MIDI device. So that means that it's pretty much open to be MIDI mapped, and that's why I do so much of it, because I really like it. It does come with Serato, so once you register it, they give you a code at Denon. You get this Serato code. You can download Serato, Serato DJ, Pitch and Time, Serato Flip, and the video expansion pack. You get all of that, and that's quite a bit of money in what they're giving you there. So I'm going to get all of it and have it in my computer, so if I ever chose to use it, I can. It has 2 USB drives. And I am going to try to share a picture here if I can do this, because I have 20,000 screens open. And we're going to talk about the front and the back with pictures, because I can't actually...
Tough to show
you the front and the back. So I'm going to show you the front and the back with pictures, and the rest of it will be looking straight on the deck. So we're going to look first at the back. Cool.
There we go.
And oops, there we go. And as you see, 2 USB slots. Some of the things that I've found out about the 2 USB slots, number one, yes, you can hook up 2 different computers and DJ from it. And I'll show you the buttons that you do the switch over for them. And it does not have to be the same computer running the same software. We can have one computer that is a Windows running virtual, one computer that's Mac running Serato, and all you do is flip a switch, and each one takes control over deck by deck. So it doesn't have to be both decks. It can be, I can be starting on the right deck, you start on the left deck, get your setup, then switch over and take over both decks, vice versa, switch back and forth, whatever you want. The other thing is because of it having 2 sound cards, I want to move down here a little bit. We'll get back to the other center, but as you see, you have your channels in the center, okay? The input channels 1, 2, 3, and 4. They are also, because of the way the sound card in there, Serato sound card, if you wanted to hook up 2 turntables on here with Serato vinyl, you do not need the SL box. You can go straight into these from the turntable, and it will pick it up and read it like the Serato box does, and then convert it in your software that you have plugged into one of those 2 USB drives, and you could have 2 regular decks and 2 vinyl decks at the same time hooked up to this. The microphone, as you see, you have the power there, the power button. Next to it is the 2 mics. You have one of the converter XLR 1/4-inch combos and the regular 1/4-inch on mic 2. They do run straight from that connection to the main out. So you don't have to have it hooked up to the computer if you want to have a mic running through it. It will pick up. So you will constantly have a mic running through that. Like I said, the 2 settings there that both have the phono and the line. For whatever you have plugged into it. And I don't know if you can see right in the center there, there's a little silver dot up to the left of the 4 in the center. That's a ground plug for turntable that's built right into it. So if you need that, you got that. Let's move over. And this is something that I think is really cool. I don't know why they never did it, other than maybe it's just space on some of the other things, is that it has XLR out for both booth out and main out. And you also have an RCA out to hook up to things, which actually tonight, just because of the way the little mixer that I'm running tonight, it has, I'm running it RCA out of those two little things and over. Then you have your stereo mono switch, which is, for a lot of people, clubs themselves, 99% of them are set up in mono. I know a lot of guys who run the, what's the one sound systems that stand up on a totem pole?
The Bose are.
Bose. Yeah, a lot of people I know will run stereo because they think it sounds better through the Bose. 98% of guys who do dance stuff want everybody to hear the same thing, so they switch to mono. So they give you that switch, mono or stereo. Plus, most softwares inside are also set up to do stereo mono. You can set it up even before it hits that switch. So, but that's why that's there. And that's back. I will take questions as we're going through each section. If you have any questions about the back, I can't see the chat, so pass it on to John.
Yep, I'm watching.
Okay, so that's the back. And we're going to go to the front now, which is here. And the front is really simple. You have a 1/4 inch and an 1/8 inch headphones. And over here, you have your crossfader curve control. And I will show you that here in a bit, what basically it does once we go to the main screen so you can see it. If you're not familiar with that, I'll explain it. If you are familiar with that, I think it's a good one. It feels nice. It really does. So that's the front and the back. If we have any questions on that at this time or not.
The only somebody asked, day and night asked if the line in on the front must be the 8000. The line ins are 4321 and the faders are 4213. When on the channels when you've got it set. So
on the fader or on the channels, because let's take a look at that while we have the front camera going on here. Well, actually, let me flip this over and we'll go to the top screen. Okay. And I just want to clarify what he's talking about because there's two different things. Okay. All right. So we have channels. Most of the time people set them up. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Some of the early Denon and some of the other one, for some reason, when they did the MIDI mapping, they put it 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know why, because most people do it here and then leave the out 2 for anything you plug onto extra. These are what controls the fader. So if I want this deck to be with the fader on that side, I flip it over. If I want this deck to be the fader on this side, I flip it over. So right now, these two are flipped out for that way.
Yep.
These two are flipped that way. But you can, if you want to, do it opposite. So did that answer the question about the fader?
I think the line in up on the very top where it had the RCAs in is what we're referring to. Make that screen bigger. I wonder if.
Yeah, can you just broadcast the?
Yep, there we go. I can pop the Denon up to bigger.
I want to go back to the front picture if I can and see what you're talking about. Oh, is he talking about recording line in for line in? Because like you can actually hook things up to the back end, those line ins, and record them through the software. They do pick up. So is that what he meant?
I think it was the RCA line in.
There's no RCA line in.
Up in the front.
There's 4 RCA line ins on the front. There's no RCA in on the front.
Yeah. It's the back side of it, towards the audience. Up above your hand.
Back here?
Yeah.
Yeah, like what I was showing the back.
Yeah. They were just wondering if they were numbered in corresponding with the channel configuration where you had the one, 2 in the middle, and then the 3 and 4 on the outside. So.
They are actually. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, just as you said. That's how they typically would be.
They are on the decks, yeah. So.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, no problem.
Which is also something because when I'm going to show you a little bit switching later, some of the other controllers that I've used have a lot of choosables up there, and these are simple inline. And we're going to go with just the mixer now. So is everybody cool with that? What we've seen? Any questions on that?
Okay, we are just the mixer.
All right, so you're seeing all this now, all this beauty here. We are looking down here at the fader. It is replaceable, and it is replaceable by one of the Innofader PHPPs, I think, because there's 2 different ones. And basically all the differences between the PH and PHPP is that one has plugs for soldering. The other one has wire plugs that you plug in. Okay, so it is replaceable quite easily, actually. But this fader, I think, is really responsive. Like one of my tests of fading is to bat it back and forth between your fingers like this. And if it bounces back and forth, it's good. It's not the perfect scratcher's fader, but it's a lot better than pretty much any controller I've ever owned. You know, because I can bounce it and it bounces because it should bounce. You should be almost able to slap it and bounce it over and back, but it only comes to there. So, but it's really responsive. But like I said, if you put one of those innofaders on there, innofader minis, you're going to get all kinds of response, and those are very programmable to the point where you can make them hamster on the fly. This does not have a hamster on the fly switch on this. What a hamster on the fly switch is that if I'm mixing here and the fader's to this side, you're only going to hear this deck and not this deck. But if you hamster it, a lot of guys like to scratch, it's the opposite. So to hear this side on a hamster, you got to push it that way. So if they're opening and closing here, you're going to hear that opening and closing. So that's what hamster is. It's just flipping the fader so you hear the opposite, and it's a scratch technique. But this doesn't have a hamster flip on it. You can do it in the software if you need to. So for someone who really likes to scratch, and there are people out there who almost scratch hamster exclusively,
Sure.
You're stuck on that. You really are. But let's move up a little bit further. You have the 4 fader knobs. The 4 what we used to call long faders, the volume. They're pretty responsive and they stick pretty well. They're not loose like that. They're tight, so you get them where you want them. Above it, again, like I explained before about the faders on A or B, depending on which side you want. Then we get to the center section up here. This is sampler volume. So if I would to trigger a sample, let me make sure what I have here. Is that coming through?
You are listening
there
to
we
Michael
go.
Joseph.
Yeah,
okay, you can hear that sample?
Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
I can turn it up or down.
Yeah.
And that's what all that does is take the sampler section, which we'll get to the samplers later. That's the sampler volume. Split Q in the headphones. If you don't know what split Q is, I love it, and I'm happy to have a button back to it. And basically what it does is that when I'm queuing something, so let's say I'm mixing right now, and I have this track playing, and you can see the Q light lit up. And I hit that split Q. Basically what that does is it puts this track queuing in one ear and the track that's playing out through the mains in the other. So you can cue your stuff and beat match with them in there. And the reason I like the button, it's accessible, is because if I'm mixing in the headphone only, and I start doing my mix, and then I want to hear the main only in both, I shut that off, and then I'm hearing what everybody else hears in the headphones, and they can bring the track in and mix and hear exactly what everybody else is hearing. But if I want to, back to the split either direction, it's that way. So that's what the split is for. These 4 here are filter knobs. They're high-low filter knobs, and we'll let you hear one here. That's the high and the low. Which I like the high-low filter knobs. I think they're really good. I use them a lot for certain types of fading out, that if you want to fade something out and give it a sort of an effect or something. Next is your headphone. This is the headphone volume, and then above it is the Q master mix, which means that if I turn it all the way to this side, then the only thing I'm hearing in the headphones is the stuff that I have queued. And if I turn it all the way to this side, then the only thing I'm hearing is the track that's playing out.
Sure.
So that's it. Your booth volume is by itself. So if you have a booth thing in there, you literally have a single volume for it and a single volume for your main.
And the booth did not have any kind of equalization on the board, correct?
Correct.
I didn't see anything.
Which, for a lot of guys who use booth monitors a lot, that would be really important. I think it's important because there are places I DJ at that I zone the sound to where I'll run the main to a section and then the booth to a section. So the booth is actually sound that other people are hearing, but I control it more when I need to in zones.
Right.
Yeah, so that would be a very important thing that I couldn't affect that. But again, with the digital world the way it is, and the programming, doing the auto gain and stuff like that, I almost never touch that kind of stuff. Like my gains, I never touch. I have these turned down right now because one of my dislikes about this controller, and a lot of them, very few, is that they put the faders when they're in the down, they're so close to there. So if I have that scratching, my hand's hitting that thing all the time. So I turn the gains down, and whatever I'm mixing, they're always out of the way so I can
have more room.
Yeah. So that's one of my pet peeves about this, and very few, like the NS7 gives a lot of room and a couple others, but most of them, they just pack you down against there. So that's kind of what that is. You do have your volume meters per track. And this is for this track over here, as you can see it. And if I bring it up, you'll see it come up in the main. And the same for the other side. So you have your meters for that, and there are meters on all 4 channels. So you're able to hear all that. Up a little bit further, up here at the top, way up there, you can hardly see it, but it says USB or line, USB or line, line phono or USB, line phono or USB. And that basically means that right now, these 2 channels are picking up the USB from the computer. So, but if I would flip them, then channels 1 and 2 that he was asking about, then we'd be receiving sound, whatever sound we're receiving coming in, channels 1 or 2 would come out of these. And the same for these, that if I flip them both outside, had a USB, not a USB, but an RCA plugged into something else, whether it be my phone, then that would make that sound, pardon me, come out of there, and then I can bring the volume up and hear whatever's plugged into that. And those are your switches. And then finally at the top, I'm pressing them. It's not going to do anything tonight, but this is all you have to do. So if there's a second computer plugged in, and the person on the second computer wanted to start DJing on this side over here, all he would have to do is hit that once, that USB light would switch over there, and then that second computer would have control of this. And then when he was ready to, hit that, and the second computer has control of that. And then when I'm ready to go back, it's the same thing. Click, click, and I'm back on. That's all you have to do.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I do plan on getting some video of. I have some friends that I'm going to invite out and have them do a night where we're plugged in and my computer, their computer, and just mix and have fun.
Yeah.
So that's basically all of the mixer section. Do we have any questions about the mixer section?
They've been some of the questions we've been answered in the chat room so far. So
okay.
So if there's something, MJ, I'll catch you. Okay.
Next thing, we're going to move over to one of the sides here. They mirror each other. And when I say it's not a mirror, it's a negative mirror. So a mirror would be identical. Negative mirror mean opposite. So as you can see, the plays are both inside. That is a pet peeve to some people. The pioneers kicked them out. So that means, in my mind, if I'm working on this deck all the time, like remember we had talked about the pitch faders being the wrong side?
Yep.
And I did, and I'll talk about that now, that for my entire life, the pitch faders have always been to the right of the decks 100% of the time until about a year or two ago, a couple of companies started putting them outward, which we're doing that negative mirroring, opposites. And when I'm scratching, it kind of gets in the way and you bump it and you kind of have to relearn to scratch. Same sense of that carbon copy as opposed to opposite mirror. A lot of other ones will put the plays to the right of the platter and to the right of the platter instead of inside. So if I'm working over here and I'm used to hitting play here and I switch over here real quick, my mind is going to be this way to hit play, but they've done it this way. That's kind of a pet peeve, that it's not uniformed, which a lot of guys like that. So if you're running a turntable or you're running a CDJ or 2 CDJs or 2 turntables, your plays are always going to be on the same side because they match. You understand what I'm saying with all that?
Yep.
Okay. But that's one of my pet peeves. We have the cue and the play, and they simply do exactly what you say. You know, pause it, and the cue, if it's playing, the cue is going to bring it back to that last cue point. This knob right here is a stop time thing that will let the pause determine how long it winds down. I have it shut off because I use a couple other effects. I won't be going hardly into any of the effects tonight, but it can show you here that if it's playing and I hit pause, it'll stop. But if I turn that up just a bit, and hit pause, turn it up a little bit more. Or turn it all the way. It basically creates the old days power off button and just let it spin down. And that's all that is give you stop time so that if you want to have a little bit of a, you have it. But I do that with effects in mind that we'll talk about next week if you want. Above that is the gloriously loved by every human being on the planet sync button. I have nothing against sync buttons, so if you want to use them. But this one also, if you choose not to, you don't want to use it, we have over here is the shift button, which a lot of them have, and the shift is going to give us double controls over almost everything on here. So shift, bam, sync is off. That means that I can't hit that button. Will do nothing in the future if I do that. So
it's not even right.
I have a friend who keeps his off, and he makes sure that people know he keeps it off. For some reason, he just really wants to be known the fact that he never uses a sync button. So that's fine with me. I'm okay with that. But that's what that is. Above this is kind of neat, and I don't know if we're going to be able to do this very well or not, but these two buttons are adjust and slides, and what they do is let you adjust the down markers or loop markers if you want. And I'm going to switch over here to a share screen. Gosh, if I can figure out how to do it over here. Because I'm running two computers tonight, for those of you who know. We're getting feed off of one and feed off the other. We'll go here, sharing that, then up to virtual. Okay, cool. Now, as you see right here on the red, do you see that little marker to the left of the center? See the center line?
Yes, yes, we can. And I've got it set so they can see your hands, and they can see our two cameras, your hands, and the virtual.
Virtual's on the big screen right now, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So one of the things with this is that when you hit that set and control, what it lets you do is adjust where that is at. So if I hit that set, you see that white line moving away from the center now?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're doing. You can set where that's at and get it where you want it. Press the set button again. The slide lets that move in junction, so you're not moving a single down marker, you're moving all of them. As you see, all of them are moving now. And that's all that does. Again, back to that magical shift button. If I hit shift and that first adjust button, it will set it there. Or if I hit shift and the second one, the slide, because like I said, remember they're layers, what it does is it will clear wherever I have. So I'm going to make that line. That's where it should be. So I'm going to move, I'm going to move that and move it way off. You can see it there, it's off. Mm-hmm. Then I hit shift and the slide, and what it's going to do is going to reanalyze the track from the beginning and move it back. That's all you have to do to analyze the track if it's not already analyzed. Is hit shift and then that slide button, which actually is the clear redo. I'll move it again, let you see it. See how far off it is there? And I hit shift and whoop, goes back. That's what that's. Okay, cool. Back to this. Again, stop me anytime if you have any questions.
Yep, I'm just
Okay, we back to the big screen with the 7000?
Yep, and it's all by itself.
Okay, cool. Slip mode and vinyl mode are pretty simple. They are, vinyl mode is just like it's a record with a needle on it. I'm going to clear this off of here so that I can see. There we go. So, all right, so it's just like it is. But slip mode is if it's playing. I'm sorry, vinyl mode is that. Let's start with vinyl mode, okay? And if I have not vinyl mode, what that's going to do is let me adjust the pitch. So if it's playing, vinyl mode's not on, I'm slowing it down.
Mm-hmm.
Or speeding it up. The vinyl mode is just like... Okay. Slip mode, what slip mode does is that it keeps the song playing underneath. It lets you grab a hold of that turntable for a second and scratch it. As soon as your hand comes off of it, it goes back to where the song would have been if you never would have touched it. So it would be like this. Let that go a bit. You can find a song with words in it here in my thing here that might be able to so you can actually hear that a little bit better. Yeah. All right. That's what slip mode is. If I wasn't, it would be that way. So that's slip mode. Here you have your deck choices. So if we were showing virtual, you would see deck 4 pop up, deck 2. And as you see when I did that, what happened to the lights around there? They lit up. Because one of the cool things is hold the shift button down again. Remember, the shift button does like absolutely everything. Mm-hmm. I hit the deck that I'm on. So when I'm playing now, they're all on with one off. But if I don't like that, all I have to do is hold the shift button down, hit the deck, and it goes to the opposite. All off, one on. Up a little bit further. Actually, we're gonna skip over to the other side. The pitch, plus and minus. Speed it up and slow it down. Here it's speeding up.
Yep.
Down. Okay. And it goes back to your normal speed. Back to that wonderful shift button. You can make that jump back and forth, whatever beat you have it set. 4 beats, 8 beats, whatever. So I hold the shift. If that's the way it's working on this one, I don't even know if that's. Nope. No. That's your range. Sorry. I'm getting mixed up because that's the way I had it MIDI mapped on the other one.
Uh-huh.
All right. So what that does when you do shift is that you have your pitch range, how much you are okay with this going plus or minus.
Okay.
I have mine almost 100% of the time set at 8%. But if you want more, you can. So hitting shift in this way changes it. So we can have, okay, that's 8% right there. I'm going to crank 8% up and then change this. Let me turn that on. There. And we're back to my 8%. So it lets you jump your percent. So if you want maximum 8% one direction, maximum 8% the other, that's all you got to do. And that's how further it's going to go. So we're back to that again. And the same thing, we'll go up a little bit. We're still all in the pitch section. We're talking all about the pitch sections. That's, like I said, your pitch. This has a very good plus or minus pitch on it. I think it's super smooth. That's one of the things I like about it is how smooth it is. This button here is, so this does what in the back old days there was pitch lock and pitch shift. Pitch lock means it locks that pitch at what it's at the normal speed. So if it's 100 BPM, then no matter how far I move this, that tone is going to be as if it was at 100 BPM. So we're hearing it. So the pitch stays the same. Okay. But if that wasn't on, this is what you'd hear. If I bump that up, you can hear it even more. You hear the tone.
Yep, a little bit of tweak.
What
we got a question. Somebody's wondering if is it possible to control both the decks 2 and 4 from one side and have them at the same time?
Yes. We'll do this. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to beat match, but I'm going to try. So we'll go here. This song's on here. Okay. And then deck 4, I flip it over. We'll leave that there. It doesn't have to be there all on, but I'm showing you that I'm on 4. I'm going to load the same song on 4. Okay. That's that volume. And I'm going to switch back to 2. I'm going to start 2, try to start it on beat. Off just a bit. I can go to 4 and do the same thing. Stop it there, switch it to 4, stop it on 4.
Okay.
So
that'll answer the question, I think, of
yes. I used to do that a lot where I would run 4 decks all the time. When I did like a single genre of music to where everything was around the same beat, I'd throw stuff on the under decks just to let them be in there. Mm-hmm. But with that being switching like that, you can put in 2 turntables, running them in there, and switch off and go 2 turntables, 2 inner decks. So you can run it all. I have done that before too.
Somebody had a question about sampling from one song into another.
Yes, the whole sampling thing on the sampling recorder is different between virtual and Serato, and basically you can sample in there and drop a sample in and bring it up on the decks and make it work with the decks. So you could be having this play on 2, and then I go to 4, pick a different song, load it on 4, and have this sample. Sample that. And then that would then be loaded on that to do its own little loop thing there if I wanted to. You know, so if I wanted to. If you wanted. So yes. Sampling is this whole thing. That's what, when I talked Monday night, we were talking about Serato Flip and all that it can do. That's where that gets into that, to where you literally can have a single song and have in that song in the computer, it has 4 or 5, I think it's up to 6 versions on some. I don't quote me on this. Edits that you want, and those edits could be nothing more than you setting up a song and having. You record that, and then now that is a loop that is able to be brought in as if it was its own song within there. So that's all part of it. I don't want to get into a lot of that because it really gets into it. If you want to go online and look up some things about Serato Flip and to see what that's all about, but that's what you're recording samples in like that, and then can bring them back on the other deck, because you're not making a new song. That's one of the wonderful things about the technology. You can have 6 versions of the same song. And use them all at the same time. So that's what that is. Did that answer all the questions on that?
I think so.
Cool. It does have the little, this is something that a lot of people that like and don't like complain sometimes, is that pitch shift and your volume knobs don't have that center stop. You know what I mean? Like as you're turning it, it'll click when you get to the center, and click when you get this does have the clicks, and it also has the little light. So that's kind of neat to have that. And when it syncs, if it's synced, then it will show green on that if I have them up there in the same thing, because I don't have stuff that's up there on the same viewpoint right now. So, but I really like that. It's really good. Reverse up here and sensor are exactly what you think they are. Come on, name down just a bit. You get to that song with the lyric in it that we had there. I think this is it. Yeah. So let's say that's a bad word. Sensor censors it out. And you go back to that glorious shift mode, and it just reverses the track. Until you press it again. This is all part of mixing the stuff you do, and that's what that is. We talked about this little button here, the pitch lock and pitch shift. Again, if I pitch it one way or the other, yeah. Hear how it went down? And that's what that is. The button next to it is the same thing, because it's all about pitching stuff into key. So if it's not right, so we have this song over here. Okay. We have this song here. They're in different keys.
Okay.
If I tap this, so I'm going to let this play, and I'm going to make it match this over here. You hear it go up?
Yeah.
So now it's on the same key as this one. If I did it opposite, can you remember how to get that back there now? You can speed it up, change your pitch automatically, reset it back to the center. It's all about matching the songs and keys. And now, like in the back days, you used to be able to hear it. A DJ would need to hear it and know which songs clashed in key. Now, one little button, and it does it. It does it for you, and you can change it. So if a song, again, is not in the right key,
what we do here is go back.
we hit it. Those are on the right ones. But you get my point, right?
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to try that pitch adjust thing. That might be my next area to play with.
And it gives you a lot, because then, like I said, I only go 8 plus and minus 8%, but a lot of people go more. So if I went go back to this and bump it to 50%, turn that off. High, low, shut that down, stays in the same key.
When that feature first came out, back in whatever year it was. Oh my gosh, that was the most awesome thing ever.
Except for those of us who think that it's a form of cheating. I'm kidding. No, if you complain about the sync button and don't complain about that, they're in the same thing.
Yeah, it's same family, yeah.
So, but I don't complain about either. They're both tools. You know, I always like to tell this story, and I'll tangent this off really quickly. The guy who invented the sewing machine had his factory burnt down twice by local tailors and seamstresses because they felt that he was cheating and he could put out more clothing than they could because they had the machines in the factory, and they burnt down his factory twice. But what do they all use now? Machines. Yeah. So it is what it is.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they use child labor, but that's another.
This is coming from a man who has how many kids now?
Yeah, well, exactly. That's all I know.
John was trying to develop a full football team with second and third string.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I got old on the deal.
It happens.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go over here, and we're going to go back to sharing on this deck here.
Okay.
Give me a second to go back to sharing the virtual, because it has something that I like and that I changed in my mapping. Is that you see right there is your song. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
By hitting the scroll here on there, and I'll go back and show you the scroll here in a bit.
Oh, we're seeing it. We're seeing it. I've got both the windows.
Okay, so the scroll picks your songs, and then pressing down on scroll loads it onto that side, or I do the same thing on this side, loads it to the other side. Okay. These here will let you load things into different panels. So if I want to see everything, which is the panel view? Yeah. So see the side there?
Yeah.
Lets me see my side panel if I want by just hitting a button. I can look at my history. I can view the whole thing and go back and forward. But underneath, as you can see here right now with this, I'm going to sort this by BPM. Okay, right there. I can then, by hitting the sort button, and the other ones, I just sorted by artist. There I'm sorted by artist there, sorry. And then that is sorted by, I believe, key and title. So if you just want to sort differently, you have the same list open, BPM, key, title. Mm-hmm. Just flip the sorting with one press of the button. You don't have to go up to the computer and do anything. The one thing I did on mine that I will talk about is that right now you do on the shift, and the back button will let you jump between your different playlists. As you can see the white line at the top of each section there. Yep. Watch that. And I'm over here and hit it again, and I'm down here in this list. It's currently in the stock version. It is a shift. You have to hit the shift to do it. I flip mine in my MIDI so that I don't have to. So all I do is hit that, and then the other one down here will let you jump between just two things on mine. Right now, it's just letting you jump between the side panel, which let me open the side panel. Oops, not the wrong one. I'm not used to what the stock is. There we go. So if I'm doing that, going back and forth between that, it'll jump between, see, on the right-hand side, then on your top deck. Okay? That lets you jump back and forth. So if you want to go through, I want to go there, but no, I want to go back. I'm here, I'm back over there, and I'm there. So that's what that does. Is that one of the things that they are doing now with these are dedicated buttons for things like that, to where you can just flip back and forth as easy as you like, just with doing that.
Question.
Go ahead.
Shoot. Where? The jog wheels. What do you think? For scratching, how do they feel?
I like them. I'm going to get to that in a minute because
okay, good. You're going to hit on it.
Work my way around to all the buttons on there because, like I said, some of them are mix and matching on there, and the parameter buttons at the bottom. I want to show that right now because you can see down here in the bottom right-hand corner. You can see both, right? They're two parameter buttons, and I flip mine in the MIDI mapping. But stock right now, what it does is if this song's playing and I hit that, it's either going to jump forward to the next cue point or back. So back to the first one, to the second cue point, third cue point, back to the first one. If you hit the shift button, what it does is it'll jump forward or backwards just 8 beats. So it would be like this. Okay, I flip mine so that those are accurate. So that if I have the down marker, which I probably should have showed you how to set the down marker right there. All right. So you can see there's no down marker at that, right? At that little point right there. All you have to do, and it has to be paused. You can't be playing it and doing it. I don't know why they didn't do that. But if it's paused, I hit the tap button, which I'll show it to you on the main screen where you can see it bigger. It sets that down marker point right there. Okay. So now, as I'm playing it, okay, that's where it should have been right there. So right there. So if I do that shift in these buttons, it'll jump back to that next beat. That's what that's for. And the idea I like it for, and the reason I have it off the shift, is let's say I'm getting to the end of the song, and I'm like, oh crap, I need to do something, and I'll wait to come out. And then do my mix. Like, oh, okay, now I'm ready to do my mix, and I'll let it go. Or if there's lots of space to the end, you're like, oh, gee, I got to get out of this song or get to the chorus. You can tap it forward too. And you can see it jumping forward there. That's what that's for. I like that. I flip mine so it's not shift and the button. It's just the button, and then the thing that it's currently at is underneath. So basically, I change those over. If I'm making sense here, because I know there's a lot to take in here, but I change it over. So the thing that I want to do is jump backwards and forwards 4 beats on beat is now on top, and I don't have to hit the shift button to get there. Okay. With the platter, we're going to look at 2 things while we have right here. If you are playing, the needle drop up here above the turntable will not make that let you be able to search. But if it's paused, you can search forward or backwards. Okay. The same, back to that shift button. Without the shift button, with the shift button. You can scroll forward and backwards in the song.
I did not know that with the fast scrolling.
Yeah.
And both the needle drop, obviously, that one I've been playing with, but not the shift jog wheel.
But with the needle drop, you can't do it with it playing. You can pull down the volume and then do it. It locks it with the volume. But with the shift and the turntable, it can be playing.
Ah, sure.
So it kind of gives you both, whichever you choose to do there. I think that's all I wanted to show on these. We'll go out of the share and go back to where you can see the full decks. We're almost through everything here. Am I back to the regular?
We're back.
Cool. The platters I like. I think they're good. Let me see what I can bring up here. Let you kind of hear. There. We're going to load this over here. So we've got this sample over here. Nope, wrong one. I loaded from the lower deck. Again, because I don't have it like my MIDI mapping, so I'm like not loading it right. All right, so there we go. We have the char sample. All right. Okay, so if we throw a beat over here, we'll loop that, and we shall loop that onto... Move those out of the way. And as you can see, it's here. The reason it blinks bright like that is because that means it's getting to the end of the sample. So if I had another song, then I'm going to go back to that other list and show you that. We shall load this one. Just showing you the difference as to where this sample's here now. That's the sample I want right there, okay? So you can see on here, you have a single, and it's actually very accurate. So if I'm doing this and I just want to scratch that, I can look at this LED right there and let it go. And it's actually viewable by that. And that's one of the things I think I like about this, that with the Pioneers, they have the center section that spins. and I don't think it's as accurate. But when you have this big thing moving all the way around, even though I agree with some people, it does look a little cheesy. I'm not gonna lie to you, LEDs look a little cheesy, but it is trackable, like I said, because it is. I can see right on the exact LED that hits right there. So. So that is trackable. The size, the feel of them, I think has a good pull to them in both the weight and release of them. So if it's, they are really responsive. And if you need to pitch up or down, which I don't use, like we talked before, the pitcher up, down buttons here, I don't use them. I use the side of the Platter. So. I think it's got a good balance to it to give it just enough nudge forward and backwards to get you where you want to be. And you can backspin, and if you have the software set right, because not all softwares do it, you can forward spin. So some of them don't do that forwards, backwards. They have it. Like I said, I like them coming from the 6000 smaller and using other ones. My favorite obviously has to be the NS7 with the motorized platters. I like the feel, the pull, everything on that, but it's more than double the weight of this. So you have a trade-off on that. I like them for scratching on both sides, you know. Turn that loop off. You know, so it kind of has its own little feel of stuff going on there. And so I think it does, and I think it also gives you room to move around. That's one of the reasons why I like the bigger one, that it gives you room. I think it has a great feel. Sure. So let's go to the very top here. This is our select and load, like I said, for the other one that you didn't, I don't know if you saw before, but I roll through the tracks and I press down on it, and it loads it on this deck, press down, loads it on that deck. I'm getting used to that because the past 2 controllers I've owned, it had a single one of those in the center. So every time now when I'm on this thing, get ready to, you know, I'm going, oh, I got to switch a song. I reach right here. Yeah. Because I'm so used to there being just one. But there's 2, which is great because if you're using CDJs, there's going to be 2. If you're using the new SC5000, there's going to be 2. So I don't have a problem with that, other than it's just something I have to learn to get used to. And the same with there being 2. Remember the stop on the pause button, that little wind down? Yeah. There's one on both sides, so you can have them set separately if you want. So it's not going to affect both. You can have one that goes, and the other one goes. So 2 of those, which I think is fine too. The next section up here is the effects. Everybody does them differently. So it's all going to depend on what you want to do. They can be set, at least virtual, as 3 separate effects that you trigger with these buttons. So it could be, I don't even know what I have in here right now. Okay, that's that. Oh, because I don't have. Yeah, you can choose by hitting the shift. See the tap here? Yep. Okay, the tap is for setting that downbeat marker. So that if the downbeat markers are wrong, that's what you hit to set that. Remember, I showed you that white line. And if the whole thing's off, you can tap it on beat to correct if the machine software in itself is not catching the beat on. You can tap through. I know my hand was covering there, but you take that tap mode and then go back to that shift, because remember, everything's twice. You then change FX modes. So right now, this is FX modes where all 3 of these are different. I don't even know what's set on there. I don't even know what's set on there. Oh, backspin's on there. That's supposed to be a wang or something. It's reverb. Like I said, this is stock, so I don't know what stock is here. Distortion. Ooh, distortion is nice. And then we'll put flip and double on here. Here, that's going double. Yep. Flip and double. So you have those effects. Then you can change the beat of the effect with right above the tap there. So I'm going to throw on that distortion effect and change the distortion effect. And that's all that does, is that lets you adjust the effects. And that wasn't the best one to show. I can't remember which one that I did before that really worked well, I felt. Was it the flanger? High-low filters. I don't even, like I said, I don't use the stock stuff, so I'm trying to look through the stock stuff. We'll just try noise and see. Anyways, that's what that is. But if you hit the shift and go back to the other one, then that becomes a single effect that you then can change parameters on the single effect. Like if it's a backspin, you can change the length, the speed, and everything on a single effect, and then assign it to a deck. So it can either be shift this way 3 separate ones, or shift that way 1 that's fully adjustable and then assignable. That kind of makes sense?
Yep.
If we tune in next week when I do the MIDI mapping, you'll see that I changed all of that.
That's what they've been kind of alluding to. And then now MJ changed, he changed things because
I simplified that, in which where I think that the last thing I'm going to get into is the buttons down here. I think that the next thing they're going to do effects wise is put 8 buttons up here that both allow this sort of setup and the setup that I do, because what I do is that I set individual effects in there, so it's always one. I'll click over and show you, even though you have to tune in next week and see. I'm going to go from the stock factory default to my custom, and my custom is flange echo out, backspin, except that backspin is, I got to go into the song. Backspin because there's no backspin, and then quick dump. That's my setting. So they're always that way.
Sure.
I always have the 3 exit effects are always there, but we're not doing that tonight. We're doing the stock. So I have to go back over here and factory default.
Paul made reference to the MK2. The 6000 has it. If you have a loop set, you can hold the shift button and turn a jog wheel and move the loop to the left. And can you do that with the 7000 also? Yeah.
Some of that is in some of that is in software.
More than hardware.
This is why I said at the beginning they call it a generic. It reads it as generic MIDI buttons. Is that the software then determines what those do, and you can adjust that, roll that, do whatever. The roll buttons down here in the effects. That's the last section we're going to talk about. Oh well, let's do the mics real quick here. You have a mic here. There's 2 mics on each side is your mic volumes. Okay, and John had pointed out that I didn't notice right away is that the left mic is your main mic, and this is the one that is the combo XLR 1/4 inch that we showed at the beginning. It has a high and a low adjustments, no mid. The one over here just has a tone knob. That's all it has. So your mic 2 is less adjustable than mic 1. Okay. You still have the mic 1 on and off, the talk over feature, and then if you hit shift, back to the wonderful shift thing and hit shift, what that does is that with this off, I talk into the mic, it does not come out of the booth. So if I have the booth monitor pointing at me, right now my microphone will not come back at me. But if I'm using that booth as a separate set of speakers, hold down the shift, hit that, it's called posting, and now the mic's going to come out of both evenly. So that's what that is. But again, the mic number 2 only has a tone control. It doesn't have a talk over, but it has an echo. I think actually the talk over button works for both. I never use talk over buttons. I don't like them. And it also has an echo, which I know our good friend James said that he uses the echo every once in a while. I don't like them, but you have that option. That's the wonderful thing about this, is it gives you so many options for that. But that's your mics. I've plugged them in. I think it sounds fine. Like I mentioned before, when John and I were talking about this a couple weeks ago, that I think a lot of controllers do a lot in the sound of the music, but then they kind of slouch on the quality of the mic. I think this has a really good mic for only having 2 adjustments. I think it's clear. I think it's strong. You don't have to push this volume crazy to get anything out of it. And when you do, you're not really getting distorted. I think it's decent. I really think that they've done that well. Like I said, because it's a hardwire, I don't have to have the computer in. I can go plug in there and it's going out the main. Simple as that. Last thing is these wonderful buttons down here.
They're pretty.
They have multiple, and again, this is where I went crazy on the MIDI mapping, and I just was talking to a friend of ours, Michael Chilson, who does a lot of DMX for lighting, and I believe that I'm going to be able to MIDI map lighting effects from here without having a separate board.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Chili's got it figured out.
Well, I came up with the idea, and I'm like, I should technically be able to do this with this because Freestyler puts an app with virtual, so I can run Freestyler tied into virtual.
Okay.
And I can MIDI map things to trigger that and put markers on songs. So I load, Pitbull's whatever, and if at a certain point I want all my lights to shut off or flash crazy, every time I load that, if I have that Freestyler plugin done and pre-programmed, it's going to do that every time I load that song with the lights that I have plugged in, if I always have the same lights plugged in.
So now, Reggie, all of a sudden this becomes a better option. He's talking, there's a lot of functionality with this board that he wouldn't need. But if you can dedicate a section of pads to run your light show, how awesome would that be?
Because mine, I'll talk about that next week. I have them in banks. I have them in audio effects banks. I have a bank of video effects, nothing more than doing video effects. And one of my video effects that I like to do is that if I play a video that's kind of like, maybe a little sketchy for high school or junior high, my video effects, I have a one button press because I took these into a bank, and it puts a looped video over top of that. So you never see the video until I take that off of there.
See, and that's another area I've got to have you show me how to do that, except would be.
So that's what I said. I take over all of these, and now looking at the Freestyler capabilities with this and how that a lot of people do DMXing through a MIDI controller. Mike does. He has this, I can't remember the name of the board he has with a zillion buttons on it. And that's kind of what he does is he sets them up to be, I want this to be light blue, dark blue, flashing, whatever. I'm going to simplify them in eight keys. I'm going to simplify all my lights into 8 keys. So, but for right now, we have the cues. So they're very responsive because check this out. Oops, I almost pulled my microphone off there. Hold on. So watch how fast we hit this.
The camera's not even registering your movements. It looks like you're...
Well, it's the same thing as I'm doing a scribble scratch. So if I'm doing it down here.
It looks like just, your hand's just shaking a little bit.
It's basically what it's doing. It's shaking really fast and hitting that. But the first bank is cue points, and then if you have to shift, and then the first one, it then takes you to that Serato flip that we're talking about. So if you're running Serato, that's where you start recording. You flip it over and then start doing your Serato flip recordings of your samples and loops and marks and all of that. Everything has double. Rolls are simple. Roll is nothing more than a repeater, which I then again took this over for effects and used my own single effect. But
MJ, are those pads touch sensitive or pressure sensitive? Velocities?
Yeah. Velocity sensitive, yeah. But I've tried them and don't feel that they're extremely responsive for velocity sensitive pads. Akai pads, if you've ever used them, you can just go a little bit harder, and the sound and everything changes. I don't feel that these are, or at least the MIDI mapping within virtual
isn't picking
it up because you do have to MIDI map pressure sensitivities to the actual button. And if MIDI, like I said, I did a lot of changes, but I'm still basing off the stock MIDI mapping that came from Denon. If they didn't put it in there, it's not there. It's a simple on or off, and that's all it is. But the rolls are, all it does is increasing length of repeat. And Slicer is similar to that. The roll down here, when you go to the second one, that's when you start recording your rolls.
Ah.
That's kind of what all that that is that it gives you a second layer. As you see next week when you see my MIDI mapping, I took that away and put another layer. But slicer is going to give you a. You can see the downbeat color change. Okay, you see it changing on there. I hit that. It's taking a sample and
Those are RGB pads?
yeah. And you can, at least I know with virtual, I literally, like when I took over the thing for the audio section and video section, I can go, I want this pad to be this color. I want it's so simple. And I know Serato is the same way. You just go, I don't want this pad to be blue. I want it to be this. You literally change it to whatever you want. And then the final button across there is your sample section, which is right now I just have a simple sample bank in there.
You are listening to Michael Joseph, MJ in the mix.
Yeah, boy.
Etc. So on and so forth. So that's what those are. And then you go back to Q and you're. And also with the cues, depending on how you have them set up, they can be like single start, as in like you have to hold it down, or single tap, or stop start. So it could be one tap starts it, one tap stops it, or like I have it, it just goes back to. So those are, again, with all the mapping, everything's settable. To whatever you want. I don't know. Did I talk about the loops? Auto loop? Well, no, how to loop.
No, you haven't done much of anything with that.
Okay, the loops, you know how to make a loop in a thing, basically. We've all done that or seen that. But this gives you the choice of either setting an in and out part of the loop or doing an auto loop. So if I turn that on, then it's going to be, as you saw it there, I've purposely put it offbeat so you can hear it kick back around, okay? So I can shorten that. Make it longer, or shorten it, then release it. And that's all that does is you set a loop that quick. So if I go back to the beginning of the song, I just want that loop to be there, set it. I know I want it this many beats, so that's 8 beats. It's going to loop on 8 beats. You can see it jump. That's a loop.
On your configuration, did you do 2 banks of samples, or is it just one?
One. But
Okay.
I'll talk about that. Our little trick that I showed you with the kick drum, because all my songs are censored. I'll talk about that next week. That's what the censor button is now. It's a kick drum.
Ah.
Censor button, because I don't use the censor because all my songs are censored anyways. I just said I don't use that button. Now I'm going to use that button.
Sure.
That's the wonderful thing about MIDI mapping, and I'll talk about that next week. That if you go, I wish it did this, you can do that now. But if you don't, that's one of the things that the 7000, the 8000, the 2 new Pioneers and several others are putting in dedicated buttons for things so that you don't have to. All the stuff that I maybe had to change, you go, oh, I wish you could do this. They're now dedicated in there. The slips, the adjust, the sensor reverse, the file jumping, all those are now dedicated buttons. Let me make sure, look at my notes here. These about effects, but we're talking about buttons and effects. A lot of Serato stuff, and I know we're past our hour. We're just about finished. Some of Serato controllers come with sounds built in, so you get those samples that I have in here, like
Yep.
okay, I programmed that. I picked that in there in the bank. But with some of the Serato and Pioneer controllers work with Serato, they're built in. So you don't even, it doesn't matter what software you're using, those buttons that have those samples are always going to be that on the thing. They're always dedicated to that. And that's where I think it's coming into a little bit of simplicity, that it is taking people who don't want to do MIDI mapping or can't or don't care. You don't have to. It gives you the option. You can go, I want this controller because it has it all set up. I don't have to do a darn thing. Any questions? I have one more thing to show. But
now, why don't you move on to the one thing, and if there's any questions.
Okay. When you turn it off, it may click here. I apologize if this clicks. All right. So power's off. Okay. I power it up. It goes through this really cool thing. Basically letting you know, okay, now it's set up. Okay. But if I hold the shift button down, is it the shift button? I think it's the shift button. If I do this wrong, I'm sorry. We'll know in a second. Nope, it was wrong. It's not the shift button. It is the deck button. Gosh, I hope I get this right because I forget how to do it now. I think this is the right one. No. Crap. I'm sorry. I have to go look this up because you have to see this. So, John, go with the questions.
Well, they're thanking you. They want you to go another hour. Ian must have an extra adult beverage with him in his hand, so he's. Let's see. Yeah, MJ can't. Yep, I'll definitely. They're thanking you for going through and really impressed with all of the information. Next week, of course, we'll talk about the MIDI mapping and get into that.
I'm just about here.
And
You gotta remember where that's at there. I have to look up the word Vegas. Where's it at?
the vinyl button.
The vinyl button. It's not the. Is it the vinyl button?
I don't know. That's Mark or Funk Sanchez.
Yeah, it is the vinyl button. He's right. Because I can't believe this, but it's the vinyl button, which is again, I'm still learning this compared to the other one. Right here,
Okay.
hold it down, the power button on, and we get what is known in the industry as Vegas mode. All the lights are changing and moving, and it doesn't stop. It just keeps doing that. That's called Vegas mode.
Does it function while it's all lighting up like that?
No, it's just for show. I've seen really, really big studio boards, like 128 channel studio boards, automated things have a Vegas mode, and that's all Vegas mode is. I just thought it was funny that they've taken time to put that into here, And if any of you have seen last year with my Christmas Denon I made with the MC7000 when I tested it, this will be my Christmas tree this upcoming year right here. Forget a tree. I got my Christmas Denon. So,
Oh, funny.
so do we have any other questions? And the only way to shut it off is you have to restart. So
I think that is about it. Does the 8000 do that?
I'm pretty sure because they're running on the basic software.
I'm
So
guessing I'd probably, I think that.
that's one of the things that when John and I were talking, we didn't know if we want to go just the 7000 or 7000 and the 8000 because the 8's almost identical aside from buttons are in different places. So if you're debating and you want one that can run off of thumb drives as opposed to a computer, the 8000 has the screens, same sort of functionality. So if you like what you saw, like, oh, I'm glad I could do that on this, you can also do it on the 8. Or get the $2,000 SC5000.
And you could do
everything.
everything.
It's freaking awesome, but it's $2,000 each side, and then you have to hook them together with a mixer. But in the future, like everything else, it's going to go down.
Question is, how do you like the feel of the 7000 compared to the 4000?
Day and night. The 4000 kind of feels, and I don't want to say amateur because it was intended to be an entry-level professional. So that means that if you are no longer DJing in your bedroom and you're going to go out and start making money, whether it be at small gigs or small weddings, that's what the 4000 was intended to be, the first step into that real world because it has XLR connections and stuff like that. So there is a big difference. And same for the 6000, I think there's a day and night difference. This feels really professional. Like I said, a couple of things that jumped out at me was, like I said, the fader, the pitch. These are so silky smooth, which you may not think is a big deal, but you feel that and you go, that's quality. And I said, I think that they have a nice kind of spin down to them to where you give them a spin and it takes a couple of seconds to come down. It's not like, oh, they stop. Or I think that the 6000 and 6000 MK2, you give them a spin, they spin forever and a day. So I don't think they don't have enough resistance. And that's the other thing that I think is going to come in the future is that you're going to see, same with really high-end faders, you have adjustability to how tight you want it. These are going to also be adjustable in the future too, to where if you want that to spin like crazy, you can or not. That's the adjustability I think is coming with that.
Someone asked about if you use a vinyl search. I'm not exactly sure what that is. That the needle drop?
It could be what they mean by this.
Yeah, the needle drop area.
Yeah, and that's a search, which this is the first controller that I've had with one of those. And it's kind of neat because a lot of times I'll throw a song on and I'm playing it and I'm going, I forget how this song ends, because I'm trying to figure out how I want to do the mix. I can throw it. That's the other thing I didn't show, but that's a software thing where it's called instant doubles, to where if I have this song playing and I need to be on this deck for something, I can instant double over to here. But if, like I said, I'm playing a song over here and I go, oh, how does this song end? I can throw it over here without touching the computer, jump all the way to the end, and then press play.
Sure.
And then hear what it sounds like into queuing it. So that's neat that it has that. With the then in 6000, I programmed that jump button to do that, and the shift and the spin to throw it down. And also another thing that I don't know if I'm going to do on this or not is that on the 6000, if I have a long list of songs on the computer, instead of going scroll, I can do a fast scroll by hitting creating a shift button on it and the platter, so I can scroll really fast down through the list if I want to. And it's not for everybody, but it's always to get your hands off of the laptop and mix and to do things. But other people like the laptop. I have a friend who DJs with the Pioneer RX, which is the exact same size as this, and he uses a mouse all night because it's what he likes.
Right.
It gives you options on everything.
Cool.
I don't even know if I'm attached now. It detached from when I did the Vegas. Vegas mode.
Good.
Anything else?
I think that is it.
If John wants to do the next week one, if you're cool with that, we'll do the MIDI mapping. We'll talk about why I do it. I'll even show a couple scripts. I'll talk about places where you can download for not only this program, but other programs, certain controllers you currently already have, depending upon the software you're using. There are other people who have created crazy things. Like I said, when originally the 6000 was put out, the channels that they put from the factory MIDI map were 1, 2, 3, 4, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. So somebody mapped that and went out right away and they grabbed it. I changed mine when I got it, but somebody else put it out there for you. I guess I could put mine up if you're interested and have an MK1, an MK2, or 7000. I will give you my mapping.
There you go.
So I thank you guys for tuning in. I'm glad you enjoyed this. I'm sorry it went long. We tried to keep it an hour because everybody has a small attention span nowadays. But thank you guys. I appreciate it. This is stuff I love to do. So I'm glad that I get to share it with you, and I hope it helps.
Good stuff. You guys, we'll post the times and such because we're actually going to probably have 2 shows next Wednesday night. We're going to have a social media show that'll be launching next week, and then of course we'll be talking the 7000 with the mapping. So we'll get you the schedule and such. Hopefully I'll have that all set by the Sunday email, the Sunday morning update. So MJ, thank you much for all the info, guys. We'll see you next Monday night. Have a good night, everyone.